Some stories don't move in a straight line, they get lost in time, suddenly reappear, and carry answers we didn't even know we were looking for. Imagine being at the most fragile moment of your life, facing the loss of your mother and the task of raising a young brother alone, and, out of nowhere, meeting someone who, unbeknownst to you, had already changed your destiny years ago. It's as if fate keeps a notebook, recording certain encounters and returning them at just the right time. This was the case with Marina Farias, a dedicated employee at Santa Helena supermarket, and a coworker who seemed like just another person, but was hiding much more than she could have imagined. What began in a quiet corner of the warehouse turned into an unlikely bond between an undercover CEO and a young woman carrying the weight of the world on her shoulders. And the most curious thing? They had crossed paths before, but only one of them remembered. This is a story about invisible bonds, forgotten promises, and the power of kindness to transcend time, break down barriers, and forever change the course of two lives. Deep in the warehouse of the Santa Helena supermarket, amidst stacked boxes and the smell of damp cardboard, Marina Farias thought no one would see her. Leaning against the cold wall, she tried to contain the silent tears that insisted on escaping. The loss of her mother was still fresh, and each day felt like an endless climb. It was there, in that moment of vulnerability, that a seemingly ordinary employee, in fact, the chain's founder, Alexander Montero, disguised as a stockroom assistant, entered the scene. Alexander had decided to work incognito at that unit to understand the employee's reality firsthand. But nothing could prepare him for the scene he encountered, a young woman with teary eyes, clutching her badge as if holding on to the last shred of security she had left. Upon noticing his presence, Marina tried to hide it, fixing her hair and forcing a brief smile. He calmly asked if everything was okay, and that simple question unleashed a flood of confessions. Between pauses and sobs, Marina explained that she was now responsible for caring for Lucas, her 6-year-old brother. Without their mother, life had become a daily race to balance bills, work, and the insecurities of a child still trying to understand why her mother figure had disappeared. Alexander listened in silence, and each of her words seemed to touch a very specific place in his own story. The conversation, which began shyly, ended up creating an immediate connection. He didn't reveal who he really was, but he promised to help in some way. To Marina, it felt like a kind gesture from a supportive colleague. To Alexander, it was the beginning of something that would extend far beyond the walls of that warehouse. As he drove home that night, Alexander Montero couldn't get Marina out of his head. The sight of her, fighting back tears in the corner of the storage room, stirred memories he thought he'd buried. The loss of his own mother years earlier had been the impetus for his creation of the Santa Helena supermarket chain. She died exhausted, working 3 jobs to support her family, never receiving the recognition she deserved. It was during this period of mourning that Alexander made a silent promise, to build a place where every employee would be treated with dignity, respect, and genuine opportunities for growth. It wasn't just about paying salaries, but also about creating employee support policies that included bereavement leave, psychological support, and benefits his mother never had. The company began as a tribute, but over time, he realized that some managers had distanced themselves from this essence. So, every now and then, Alexander would sneak in undercover to see for himself what the atmosphere was like in the stores. That day, he not only encountered someone in difficulty, but he also recognized in Marina's gaze the same determination he'd seen in his mother, the determination to move forward despite the weight on her shoulders. And this rekindled in him the commitment to keep his promise of dignity alive. He knew that if he wanted to honor his mother's memory, he would need to act not just as a CEO, but as a human being. The encounter with Marina felt like a reminder sent by destiny itself, that his mission was far from over. And perhaps, this time, the change he sought would begin with just one person. In the following days, Alexander Montero maintained his disguise as a stock assistant, moving around the store as if he were just another employee. From afar, he watched Marina closely. She didn't just perform her duties, she helped elderly people carry groceries, patiently explained promotions, and even reached for products on the higher shelves for customers who were having difficulty. All of this with a smile that, though discreet, hid the recent scars of her mother's loss. What was most impressive to Alexander was how she also cared for her colleagues. When a cashier was overwhelmed, Marina was there helping organize the bags. When the produce department needed to replenish fruit, she volunteered without complaint. He saw in her something rare in the corporate world, the ability to combine efficiency and kindness, even when life was in crisis. This attitude brought back memories of why he had created employee support policies at the company's inception. Marina asked for nothing, complained about nothing, yet deserved everything. She unknowingly represented the ideal Alexander dreamed of seeing in every Santa Helena team. It was like watching a living reflection of his promise of dignity. He decided not to approach her abruptly. He preferred to continue observing, mentally noting her every gesture. He didn't just want to help her, he wanted to understand how he could turn this example into a beacon for the entire company. And deep down, he already sensed that Marina was about to reveal more than he realized. It was one rainy afternoon, while helping organize the storage room, that Alexander noticed a box of Marina's personal belongings in a corner. Between a worn notebook and some photographs lay a carefully folded child's drawing. Curiosity got the better of him, he immediately recognized those simple, colorful lines. It was the same drawing he had received 10 years earlier, from a girl grateful to him for helping her mother after a road accident. The drawing showed a man holding an umbrella over an injured woman, with the phrase, "My guardian angel," written in crooked letters. Alexander felt a shiver. Back then, he had given food, shelter, and money so that the family could recover. He never saw them again, until now. And there was Marina, all grown up, with the same determined look she had when she was a child. For the rest of the shift, Alexander couldn't get this revelation out of his head. Now, everything made sense, the way she dealt with people, the strength she demonstrated in the face of hardship, her generosity even when she didn't have much. Marina was the fruit of a history marked by gratitude and struggle, and he realized that, somehow, his earlier gesture had planted a seed. He decided to keep the secret for a while longer. He didn't want Marina to feel obligated or embarrassed. But deep down, he knew, this reunion wasn't a coincidence, but rather a silent reckoning between past and present, something fate had carefully planned. In the days following the discovery, Alexander began acting discreetly. Without Marina's knowledge, he arranged for a weekly food basket to be delivered to her house, along with educational toys and new clothes for Lucas. He signed the card simply as, "A friend of your mother." He wanted the gesture to be felt as affection, not a favor. Deliveries always arrived at crucial moments, when the pantry was running low or when Lucas needed school supplies. Marina would tell her colleagues about the guardian angel, who seemed to watch over them from afar, unaware that he was there, stacking boxes just a few feet away. For Alexander, hearing these words was confirmation that he was on the right path. He also asked a doctor friend to provide free care for Lucas, ensuring the boy received quality pediatric care. He did everything without leaving a trace. Each act of kindness was designed to keep alive the promise of dignity he had made years ago, now with a face and a story that made that promise even more personal. Alexander knew that sooner or later he would have to reveal the truth. But there was something special about watching, from a distance, hope blossom in Marina's life. It was like watching a plant he once helped water finally blossom, even without knowing the water came from his own hands. The day of the revelation arrived at a general meeting at the Santa Helena supermarket. All employees were called into the main hall, expecting to hear another standard corporate speech. Marina, in her impeccable uniform, sat in the last seats, unaware that she would be the center of attention. When Alexander Montero took the stage, no longer disguised as a stock assistant, the room erupted in a buzz. He began by discussing the importance of human bonds within the company, reminding us that no business can survive without respect, empathy, and employee support policies. When we care for people, we care for the heart of our company, he said, looking directly at Marina. Then he paused and revealed, over the past few months, I've had the chance to work alongside you undercover, and I've heard stories I'll never forget. It was at that moment that he spoke, emotionally, of Marina's strength and generosity. He revealed that she was a living example of the promise of dignity he made when founding the network, and announced new measures, paid bereavement leave, psychological support, and support programs for families of employees in difficulty. His words resonated like a public and non-negotiable commitment. Marina, stunned, felt her heart race. The colleague who had lent her an ear in the warehouse was, in fact, the owner of everything. The room filled with applause, but for her, the moment went beyond surprise. It was validation that kindness and compassion still had a place in the corporate world, and that her mother would have been immensely proud to see her there. After the meeting, Alexander approached Marina with a serene smile and a look that said more than words could express. There were no long speeches, just a whispered, "Thank you," and a lingering hug, which seemed to unite not only two people, but also two stories separated by time. From that day on, their relationship took on a familial feel. Alexander made a point of getting to know Lucas better, who quickly became attached to his uncle, who appeared with games, books, and funny stories. Little by little, Marina realized that it wasn't just material help. Alexander was offering presence, stability, and the kind of support that creates true family bonds. It was as if life had decided to give back, twofold, everything she and her brother had lost. Months later, the three of them visited Marina's mother's grave together. The scene was simple, yet rich with meaning: fresh flowers, respectful silence, and a sense that this cycle of pain had finally found space for hope. Marina held Lucas's hand, while Alexander, beside them, silently promised to keep this new family together. At that moment, everyone understood that this wasn't just about gratitude or a debt from the past. It was about building something new, a home of care, affection, and mutual protection. And deep down, Marina knew that this reunion, initiated by an act of kindness 10 years ago, still had much to write in the pages of the future. What if life were now preparing a reunion for you? It could be that, at this very moment, someone you helped in the past is ready to return that gesture in ways you couldn't even imagine. Stories like Marina and Alexander's remind us that kindness is never lost. It circulates, changes form, and often returns when we need it most. Think about it: how many opportunities to be someone's guardian angel have gone unnoticed? And how many times have you failed to ask for help because you thought you had to face everything alone? Maybe it's time to make room for genuine connections, for bonds that go beyond self-interest and can transform your path. The question is, are you prepared to recognize when destiny knocks on your door? Because, like Marina, you could be one step away from experiencing something that will change your life forever. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue following stories that inspire, move, and prove that, deep down, we all have the power to change someone's life, and our own, too.